One of you asked me how you can get into CI consultancy, and what is the role of a CI consultant to start with? Let's dive into that. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And today's video, it is about the role of a CI consultant and specifically also how to get into CI consultancy. Now, before we start all of that, and I do have a couple of thoughts prepared to share with you, but you should know that I, of course, only took one of these roles, right? So I started off my career in business, in industry. Basically, I started as a trainee, but not even in CI. I started with sort of normal work, sort of normal improvement work that you would expect after university, grow in a business, learn the tools of the CI trade, and then relatively later, so that's mid-career, I jumped over to CI consultancy. And who knows, I might even jump back in directly into industry again. But okay, I do, of course, have a whole bunch of CI consultant friends, different consultant friends, and I've seen what is happening in the industry around me. And there are a couple ways to think about, if you want to get into continuous improvement consultancy, lean consultancy, TPM consultancy. And by the way, when you get into these consultancy areas, there is a difference. So when we are talking lean consultants, that is a specific idea, create flow in a company. TPM consultants, they do want to have a specific knowledge of the pillar structure. As a consultant, you should have, at least as a mid to senior level consultant, more knowledge of what you are teaching than your average sort of CI specialist or CI helper within a company, right? So those things do become important as a distinction, even though in my channel, for a good reason, I mix and match all of them quite a lot. Because I think that in the end, it is up to you in the company to make a difference using whatever tools you need at that moment. That, by the way, is also the main thing that I think is the role of the CI consultant, and that is to guide the client, a company, through those materials. So for that, we have a couple of ways to get into it and a couple of ways to get that expertise. And the main things to immediately choose, and this is especially important if you are in school or early in your career and you're thinking of jumping into CI, there is the route through an agency, so a consulting agency, right? A real consulting company. You can go with one of the big three or a couple of the medium tier firms or even just a local consultancy firm. Most consultancy firms in the continuous improvement sphere will accept people straight out of college or university or with very limited experience in business, because within a consultancy agency you do also have junior posts of people who just do the analysis and implementation groundwork, things that are super important to do, that do not require per se a lot of experience. They just require a good skill set which this agency will give to you together with the education you had. So that is a very nice way to quickly get into the consultancy side of continuous improvement. There is a sort of similar role, especially with the larger companies. They will have trainees, corporate or maybe just at one factory, but a traineeship or maybe sort of an entry-level position that is directly after you did a traineeship. So a position for early in your career is available at many of the larger companies, industrial and otherwise. But this means that you take a similar type of role to being a junior consultant at an agency, in that you will probably join that factory or even the corporate CI team, TPM team, and you will help implement projects in factories. So you will do the analyses, assist in doing the analysis, because such companies, and the reason why you can get a CI job as a trainee, corporate trainee, is that the bigger companies, they will have a team of lean or CI or TPM or Kaizen specialists led by people with more experience, and they also, just like those agencies, they need to have smart manpower to get analyses done, to get some extra hands in the field, do the counting, but also implement the improvements. And the nice thing is, just as with an agency, you will get a nice training here as well. Now, I will say, when you go with one company, you will of course only learn the flavor of continuous improvement that that company is implementing at that moment at the factory where they need you. The plus is that you will be in there probably on a full-time basis, right, in one project, one factory at the same time. So you learn all of the ins and outs, especially also the ins and outs of what happens when the consultants are gone, what happens in the organization, how can you get your supervisors and your operators and your mechanics into the whole change process, which is a really important part of CI, but you will only learn one program. And to be honest, I have even had, and I do think it is not a very fair remark that I got, but I have been in a job interview where somebody told me, oh, you've been in the CI department of that previous employer. Well, I don't like people who come from that company. They have mislearned, so they've learned sort of a wrong way to implement those CI skills. No. If that's your experience, I think you have no proper experience. That might happen, right? So probably this person has met some of my old colleagues and was not too happy with them. This will happen with consultancy colleagues or completely different colleagues as well, right? So individuals will be better or worse or be a fit with other people or simply not be a fit, right? But do know that when you have only one corporate, so one company, there is generally one style of CI that you learn. Although if you are there long enough, you might see a change in their program, learn two ways of doing it. Go to different factories, learn a bit more, but definitely if you join an agency, you will have a much quicker, broader scope. The thing is there, of course, you have to sell your services. You are there to basically, and I know that this is a bit of a negative view on consultancy firms, but you are there to sell yourself, your time, and your company's idea. The actual implementation at the client and them really getting benefits is of secondary importance. So when you are in a corporate CI role, well, the corporation really wants you to improve the business, right? That is really the first thing you need to do. When you're a consultant, the first thing you need to do is keep your clients happy and sell more of your services. Now, the very good thing is that you will learn a nice and structured system. You usually have a lot more access to learning materials, and you will have a lot of learning opportunities because you will visit different factories from different companies, probably in different industries, which means you will quickly get a much better understanding of what those tools really are. See, if you are implementing a tool in a specific way in your company, there is a good chance that you take one sort of turn in how to implement the tool, and that turn later bites you. Now, if you are implementing or consulting on the implementation of a certain tool across multiple companies, multiple factories, and you see how they react differently to it, you're learning of how the tools work and what they can do, what they're supposed to do, what are good ways to implement or bad ways to get it going. It'll increase the speed of your understanding of that material. Of course, you do not get all of the benefits that I just discussed, really being with the operators, being part of the inside team. That's a very good track. Now, do know, and you can check a number of other YouTube channels for that, when you consult for the bigger consultancy firms, especially on those early jobs, right, those entry-level jobs, they will milk every hour that's available out of you, and you will be doing a lot of work, and there will be a lot of time pressure and often a lot of travel involved as well. That might be fun, but it is super intensive, and for many people it is not fun anymore after 1 or 2 years. And if you are thinking of having also a more or less stable family, then it's generally out of the question, the early part. Mid-senior jobs, perfectly fine. Still often a lot of travel, but very doable. So those are when you join early in your career. The thing is with mid-career, and this is of course a slightly different way to slice it, but the main difference here is when you just basically start as a professional in another field, right? You go into logistics, into manufacturing, into management, and then during the work that you do there, you get exposed do continuous improvement concepts. You learn some Kaizen on the job. You're in an engineering or a quality department. Six Sigma comes around. It's a thing that your company wants to use, and you get training on that to implement it on site. You're not full-time in that program. You've got your own stuff to do, but you sort of grow into it. You participate in a couple of projects. Maybe you get selected, I don't know, a senior pillar member or a team leader for a specific type of improvement projects, or you're a Kaizen expert. Stuff like that really tends to happen because the whole idea, of course, is that you want to have your consultancy sort of teaching the skills and your own company people to be able to perform it. Even the corporate teams should just be there to support, not to do most of the work in their factories. So there are many careers that will incorporate a little bit of CI skills, a little bit of TPM, Lean, Six Sigma stuff into it. Maybe for a couple of years you'll even grow into, and then not through a traineeship, but just into that factory or more central CI team, and go back to another role and get a bunch of experience of really putting it into the field. That is highly valued experience also by agencies. So there is a good way to mid-career jump to an agency or specifically to a company's CI team. This is a different route to take, and it will require some different skills early career, but also a bit mid-career. Now, that is the thing to sort of check, what do we want from a CI consultant? And when we are thinking early career, so the immediate agency or type of trainee route, we really need people who can quickly think, quickly grasp, and implement change. My apologies for the analytics with an extra dot, but analytics and change management are the key skills, with analytics being on number one. And that is because in that team that you will have, the more experienced people will definitely be change leaders, change managers. They will have experience with that. So if you are just a good analytic who can at least talk with people as a quick rapport, but mainly can look at processes, what is the company doing, see the data, see what is in the field, gather up and quickly translate that data into information, opportunities, a way to do improvement. That is the key skill that agencies or traineeships are looking for if you want to go the CI route. Later in your career, and that basically goes for all of them, although there is one that is a bit special in agencies. There is a split when you go to the mid-senior type of levels between those who are really specialists on the topic and those who sell, with the latter generally getting more money as well, because you're selling your program and keeping the younger consultants working. And that part of the job is not so prevalent in the corporate world. There's of course a corporate sales department, but when you work for companies, you generally only have to sell yourself a couple of times when trying to get a job. And the other thing is, when you get to that mid-level, you should be an expert. So a CI consultant has to be an expert on implementing continuous improvement in its various forms. That is what an agency will train you to become. You've had lots of companies where you've implemented it, you've seen it go wonderful, you've seen it go badly, you've learned from that, you've got people around you, you've got a system around you. All of that knowledge is very valuable, and that's also why companies pay quite a high premium for the mid and senior level consultants from an agency. The same goes for if you decide to jump mid-career. See, you should have in your career gotten the skills that will make you valuable to implement CI skills, CI capabilities at other factories, even other companies. And you will have gotten that if you have worked with those things in regular jobs. And of course, this whole traineeship will not last forever. It's usually about 2 years, but that grows into often careers that are more focused in an area. Now, the starting skills for your career can be basically all kinds of things, as long as you also have those analytics and change management skills. You get your experience with CI tools, you can become that expert that can go to an agency, go freelance, go to other companies in the corporate CI team, for instance. Those are very nicely paid roles as well. So if you're thinking CI consultancy, really don't overlook the larger companies have their own CI teams on a regional or on a global level. Those are almost consultancy type of jobs, right? You're like an internal consultant for that company, because you will generally not be working on improving that department's effectiveness. No, that is a department with specialists specifically there to go into the field, to go to that factory that needs it, or to roll out a change program across your company, which are very interesting lines of work. I've been in one of those teams for a number of years, really enjoyed it, got a lot of skills from that as well. So move towards those roles if you want to be in that sort of CI consultancy. But then the main thing, right, especially what I now also notice that clients like about the way that I use CI and the way that I talk about it, I hope to really get that through these videos as well, is you need to be an expert on how to actually implement it. Practical implementation. So that part, see, when we look at all kinds of videos about Six Sigma or Lean, or when we read a book, or when we go through the theory, there is such a nice picture of how it can be. But in the end, when you are at factories, especially those only starting, but also those who are somewhere mid-journey, and even those who are late in their journey, you need to adapt the materials. So the theory of Kaizen or the theory of Motorola's Six Sigma doesn't apply one-on-one to other businesses. Even specifically, actually, the Toyota method, they themselves also say, do not copy it one-on-one, because it is the Toyota method. We used the 7 quality tools, we used the continuous improvement philosophy to build it onto our industry. That should give us so many clues already. So when you are a CI consultant, you should be able to be such an expert on the tools that you can shift them to different levels, that you understand why are we doing it. So what can I for now leave out? How can I adapt it a bit to the situation that this factory is in at the moment, without losing the key benefit that this tool is supposed to bring? That requires more expertise than just reading the book. But that is the role, and if you can do that in a good way, you will really have plenty of work in CI consultancy. Be it through agencies, be it through a corporate team, be it through freelancing, although I will also say at this moment of making this video, I actually, as a freelancer, work mostly through agencies. So a consulting agency hires me as a free consultant, a freelance consultant, and they then place me at their clients, and it's a great deal, right? So that is all possible, and in fact, to be completely honest, the short answer to the original question, how do I become a CI consultant, is to change your title on LinkedIn and you are a CI consultant. But we're now talking about how to do that successfully. That is, if you can prove that you can make change happen. Not per se for these early jobs, then you just have to go with the team, get proper analytics and do the project work. But on that mid to high level, you need to keep the client happy by really delivering results, but also by taking people along. And that I have seen is also so much more important, because you sometimes, if you've been in industry for a bit, you will have had experience probably of one of the larger consulting companies coming by and straightening out the business. which too often means cutting headcount, reducing cost, and leaving again. And yes, the costs are lower for about half a year, and then something changed and the whole thing collapses and performance is gone again, because that is not really what continuous improvement is about. It's actually really not what it's about. But those nice systems are very difficult to implement. Now, having a good quality management matrix, that is huge. If you just start doing that, you're going to look like an ISO consultant who will give an ISO handbook to a company to use only during audits. So it's possible, you can set up a system, but then it doesn't do anything for the company. And this is where the true agency, but also freelance and also corporate CI role comes to. You have to be able to be such an expert that you understand how to implement in practice and use your analytical skills to also in a practical way, and how can I say, but it is really analytics, but you have to quickly decide what is important. And so if you can focus on that, if you want to get into CI consultancy, do not go for a black belt per se, right? So a black belt is a good certification. It's a good system. I know some people don't like it. Really, the skills you learn when you do proper black belt projects, they are wonderful. They are good skills, and I don't care about, that Motorola did it in a wrong way. The things you learn are still good. But if you go and only learn the pure statistics there and really check normality every time that you see some data, that is not the part that's helping you in the long run. It is about understanding, what are the actions I need to take? What are the actions my operators need to take? What is the direction a company needs to take? For that, you need to be able to analyze the situation. Also, draw the conclusions, right? From half data, you draw the conclusion, is this area interesting to check or not? Right? So we're not going to do a full project on it based on half info, but we can eliminate projects based on that. Be able to implement change with people and also understand how you can use the tool not to the fullest. And let me just repeat one wonderful lesson a colleague once told me. He was at that moment in that corporate team, and I still consider him one of my continuous improvements mentors. He told me, let everyone experience their own learning journey. So you have this wonderful tool that consultants gave you got from a textbook, and when you start implementing it, there's a nice table of all the information you need to know about maintenance jobs, and your maintenance department says, oh, but come on, this is way too much detail. Why do we need the second half of all these columns? It's not going to help you. You have to be able to know which columns can I keep out, let them take it out, work with it, and have the patience to let them first work with half of the tool. And at some point they will say, hey, but now we don't know what the original start date was. Let's add that column. It would be nice to actually know who put this into the system. It would be nice to, and you understand, right? They will learn from their own experience and probably get back to that table that the consultants once gave you. Those agencies, they have 10, 20, 50 years of experience and a lot of people implementing in different environments. Many of the tools that consultancy companies come with, the tools are good. If you have complaints about them, it's the implementation. The tools are almost always good. But people need to learn it for themselves from their own experience. And that, I guarantee you, if you are that CI consultant who can manage this learning, so make some results along the way, let people learn and bring them step by step towards that ideal of what our CI theory and our CI sort of gems and the lighthouses of the industry are doing, you've got jobs everywhere. You get into that, own agency, why not? Work a couple of years for them, work the rest of your life for them, start your career there, or in the corporate world, at a factory team, at a corporate team. really nice experiences. And also, don't be afraid to make one of those choices. It's not forever. If you've been with a consulting agency for 2 years, there are plenty of corporates that would love to have you on their team, and vice versa as well. If you've got a nice track record with corporate teams, most consultancy agencies will be happy to have you. So don't worry too much. Check the skills and the competences that I discussed in this video, and you can get into CI consultancy yourself as well. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. Hit that like button if you did. And if you've got another question about CI consultancy or just about CI in general, don't forget to drop a comment. I love making videos based on what you would like to know. Voice of the customer, remember. For now, I wish you the best of luck in your careers. And don't forget that also you should enjoy your career journey.